Mark Grayson is everything we hate about superheroes. He's emotional, reckless, naive, dangerous. He gets people killed. He fails at saving lives. He lashes out at the people trying to help him. And when it matters most, he's often just not enough. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If we were raised like he was, under the shadow of a God who saw humanity as disposable, manipulated by a government that treats lives like chess pieces, and thrown into catastrophic violence before finishing high school, we probably wouldn't do much better. Mark Grayson isn't just a bad superhero. He's a terrifyingly human one, and that's what makes him so tragic. In this video, we'll break down how Mark Grayson from Invincible is a psychological case study in failure, trauma, and moral confusion. We'll explore why his relationship with Omni-Man doomed his development, how Cecil Stedman could have been a critical anchor in his life, and why, despite his superpowers, Mark might be the most vulnerable character in the series. And finally, we'll ask the big question, would we really do any better? Let's dive in. To understand why Mark fails, we have to start with where he comes from. Mark Grayson is the son of Nolan Grayson, better known as Omni-Man, Earth's most powerful protector, and ultimately, its greatest threat. From the beginning, Mark is raised in a household defined by deception. Nolan's public persona is that of a noble savior, but privately, he sees humans as beneath him. When Mark gains his powers, Nolan shifts from father to indoctrinator, grooming Mark to adopt the cold, imperialistic philosophy of the Viltrumites. This is a classic case of what psychologist Erik Erikson called identity confusion. According to Erikson's psychosocial theory, adolescence is when we begin to define who we are, but Mark's role model is actively sabotaging that process. Erikson's theory states, where the environment fails to provide adequate affirmation, the individual may experience identity diffusion and role confusion. Mark never got that affirmation. Instead, he was told two contradicting things. You're here to protect people. You're destined to rule over them. No wonder he's lost. The betrayal scene, when Nolan reveals his true ideology and beats Mark into submission, is more than physical trauma. It's a psychological break. The one figure Mark looked up to, the person who should have modeled justice and restraint, turned out to be a genocidal maniac.
I will burn this planet down before I spend another minute living among these animals. Please.
In that moment, Mark's identity fractures. He's no longer just a teenager trying to be a hero. He's a survivor of emotional and ideological abuse. This fractured identity never really heals, and as we'll see next, it sets the stage for every mistake he makes going forward. After the betrayal, Mark tries to pick up the pieces, but he does it with an outdated moral framework. He believes, naively, that being a hero means saving everyone, that if you try hard enough, you can stop the train before it hits anyone. But Invincible brutally punishes this idealism. Take his early missions. He tries to help Titan, only to be manipulated into a gang war. He joins the Guardians of the Globe, only to watch them die because of his inexperience. He dives into battles he isn't ready for, and innocent people die because of it.
I've got you, I've got you. Don't move.
These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern. Developmental psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg proposed a theory of moral development that helps explain this. Kohlberg outlined three major levels of moral reasoning: pre-conventional, based on avoiding punishment; conventional and based on social norms and approval; post-conventional, based on universal ethical principles. Mark is stuck somewhere between level 1 and 2. He wants to be liked. He wants to avoid guilt, but he hasn't yet developed a coherent ethical system beyond, I'm the good guy. That's dangerous, because in the world of Invincible, good intentions don't save lives. Mark's refusal to think strategically, to kill when necessary, to trust allies like Cecil, or to recognize when he's outmatched, ends up costing more lives than it saves. He fights like a boy playing superhero, not like a soldier who understands the stakes, and that's the tragedy. He's trying to be Superman in a world that needs a Batman, or at least someone who understands that the world doesn't reward purity. It demands sacrifice. If Mark had one chance at stability, it was Cecil Stedman. Cecil isn't a hero. He's not even morally clean. But he understands the world Mark lives in. He's pragmatic, strategic, ruthless when necessary, but ultimately trying to protect humanity. Cecil recognizes Mark's potential early. He brings him into the fold, offers him guidance, gives him missions that matter. But Mark rejects him. Why? Because he sees Cecil as cold, manipulative, willing to sacrifice the few to save the many. To be fair, Mark's mistrust is understandable. Cecil lies. He runs secret prisons. He weaponizes corpses. But here's the key point. Cecil could have been the surrogate father figure Mark needed after Omni-Man's betrayal. According to attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby, children and adolescents require a secure base to develop emotional stability. Without one, they become reactive, distrustful, and impulsive. Cecil offered that base, but Mark was too emotionally damaged to accept it. Instead of seeing Cecil as a mentor, he projected onto him all the betrayal he experienced from his father. Cecil, for his part, doesn't coddle Mark. He expects him to grow up fast, maybe too fast. This failure to connect isn't just personal, it has geopolitical consequences. When Mark ignores Cecil's warnings, when he goes rogue, gets baited, or refuses to kill, entire cities get destroyed. Monsters are unleashed. Alien invasions succeed. Cecil needed a weapon. Mark needed a therapist. Neither got what they wanted. Mark's real kryptonite isn't kryptonite. It's emotional immaturity. Let's look at the signs. He struggles with romantic relationships, lying to Amber instead of being honest about his double life. He has violent outbursts when frustrated, even toward allies. He internalizes guilt instead of learning from mistakes. And worst of all, he repeats patterns of self-destructive behavior. Psychologist Carl Rogers believed that personal growth requires congruence, a harmony between our self-concept and our actions. Mark's self-concept is hero, but his actions often contradict that. Instead of adjusting his self-image or learning, he doubles down. He refuses to adapt because admitting fault would destroy what little confidence he has left. This emotional fragility makes him a liability in combat and leadership. Consider the bystander effect, a psychological phenomenon where individuals fail to act in emergencies when others are present. Mark reverses this. He acts impulsively even when he shouldn't. He throws himself into situations that need planning. He sees pain and reacts instead of thinking, and the trauma builds. After every disaster, every corpse, every failure, he absorbs more guilt, but instead of processing it, he pushes it down. This is a textbook case of what trauma researchers call moral injury, the damage done when someone violates their own moral code or witnesses events that contradict their values. Mark wants to be good, but he's forced to make impossible choices. And without therapy, mentorship, or time to heal, he breaks again and again. At this point, you might be thinking, Mark's just weak. But here's the twist. Most of us, under the same circumstances, would be even worse. Stanford psychologist Philip Zimbardo, in his infamous Lucifer effect, showed how good people commit evil when placed in corrupt systems. The Milgram experiments proved that ordinary people will electrocute strangers when ordered by authority figures. Mark was raised by a God who murdered for ideology, trained by a government that lies to save lives, given powers he barely understood, and thrown into global crisis before he finished high school. He had no moral compass, no support system, no chance to process what was happening. We like to think we'd be better, but most of us can't even stay calm in traffic. Mark's flaws are ours, magnified, and that's what makes him powerful, not because he wins, but because he tries and keeps trying, even when he knows he might fail. Mark Grayson is everything we hate about superheroes. He's unstable, ineffective, too emotional, but he's also what we fear about ourselves. He mirrors what happens when power meets confusion, when trauma meets duty, when morality meets reality. And instead of flying above us like Superman, he stumbles beside us. That doesn't make him a good superhero. In fact, it makes him a terrible one, by conventional standards. But maybe that's why Invincible hits so hard. It's not about supervillains and costumes. It's about the quiet terror of realizing that even if you have all the power in the world, you might still not be enough. So the next time you judge Mark Grayson, ask yourself, if you were betrayed by your father, manipulated by your government, and expected to save the world at 17, would you really do any better? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe for more character breakdowns, and ring that bell to stay notified. Until next time, stay safe and stay human.
What you wanted? You enjoyed yourself? Still having fun? Answer me!
I think the good with the bad.
Ah!